Hey everybody, this is Doug with Artfully Rogue. Now in front of me, I have a 12-foot by 4-foot sheet of stainless. I have to build a large reflection pool that is going to be 13 feet long and 3 feet wide. That means I need to cut off 12 inches along this entire length. Now, in order to do that, I built this tool to help my plasma cutter guide me along that edge so I get a nice, long, clean, straight cut. Let me show you how I built the guide. So for this project, I'm going to use a piece of 3/4 by 3/4 angle, and I'm going to cut off about 12 inches of this. This is going to be the guide that I run along the edge of the stainless. Now this piece is pretty rusty, but it shouldn't cause any problems with regards to running along the edge of the sheet metal. I'm also going to use some 1¼ inch, I believe this is 095 wall tubing, and I'm going to cut off about a 1/2 inch piece of this. This is what's going to go around the collar of the plasma cutter. Now you'll have to check your plasma cutter to make sure that the diameter will fit your actual plasma cutter torch. I'm also going to use some 1/4 rod. Now this is going to be the adjusting part of the tool, and luckily I actually had a piece of stainless tubing that was also here laying around, and it fits nicely inside. So you're going to have to find these two components yourself. Find a piece of tubing or pipe that allows a 1/4 inch rod to slide in and out easily. Now on the 1/4 inch rod, I am going to cut this to be about 16 inches, and then I'm going to cut about, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so, and that's going to attach to the round collar that's going to go directly on the plasma cutter. So in addition to a piece of long 1 inch flat bar that's going to be kind of the base, I'm going to use this 1¼ inch as the standoff. So I'm going to cut, I'm not even sure what the dimension is at this point, but I'm going to cut enough of this that it's going to sit on top of that flat bar, which will then allow the round rod to be welded to the top of this. So basically this is just a spacer to make sure that I keep the plasma torch off the steel the exact amount that it needs to be in order to cut properly. I'm going to start by cutting all my pieces, the flat bar, the round tubing, the round rod, and I'm going to do this on my dry cut saw. I'm going to go ahead and weld the 1 inch flat bar to the 3/4 inch angle and basically make a T shape with this tool. Once that's welded in place and everything is squared and straight, then I'm going to cut the little spacers that are 1¼ inch by 3/16 inch wide, and those are going to go at the ends of the flat bar. And I'm going to get those welded in place. I try to leave a little bit of time between welding because I don't want this metal to get too hot and start to warp. And when welding, make sure you clamp everything in place, because if not, it will move on you. Next, I want to take the steel collar and I want to actually drill a hole in that collar and tap it. I'm using an 8/32 here. This is what's going to hold the collar in place. Once the round rod is in place and the collar is able to slide freely back and forth, this is where it gets a little tricky. So I want to put my plasma torch head into the collar and I want to lock it into place. And then I want to line up the sliding sleeve on the round bar and make sure that those two are properly aligned. Once I know they're aligned, then I can go ahead and weld the collar to the sleeve. So I actually made a mistake here. I forgot to actually tap the sleeve that's going to be sliding back and forth on the round rod. So in order to do that, I went ahead and moved the collar all the way to the end of the round rod, and I drilled through the sleeve, through the round bar, and through the collar. And then I tapped the entire thing. Okay, so for the most part, that's it. This is the tool. Now, if I went a little fast, or maybe there was a little something in there that you didn't quite understand, you can go to my website and I'll have a link where you can actually download the plans for free. I'll put that somewhere here in the bottom of the screen and also in the description. So yeah, you can get the free plans for this, and it'll kind of walk you through the process step by step on how I actually made this. So I'm going to have one shot at this, and like I've mentioned before in some of my other videos, Before you make any cut with your plasma cutter, make sure that you kind of do a dry run. Make sure that there's no obstacles in your way, that everything is going to be smooth and clean and clear. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, is I've set the tool onto the piece of stainless, and then I'm going to pull that back and try not to trip over the cables as I back up along this full 12-foot sheet. Now, once I have that test run done, it's a matter of turning on the machine, putting on the compressor, and just kind of going for it. And now, before you ask the question in the comments, hey, what happens as you start to cut? Will this thing start to sag or fall off? And, does it cause a problem with the tool? Well, I kind of planned on that as well. If you can look underneath the stainless, I added 3 areas where I took some angle, I clamped it to my table, and it's going to help support that piece that I'm going to cut off. I don't mind cutting through that or, going over that with my plasma cutter, because anything that's under that plasma, that arc, is going to get fried. So now, anytime you're going to make a plasma cut inside a workspace, make sure you have good air circulation, put on a respirator, and make your cut, because as you can see, oh my gosh, it gets super smoky in here. And if you don't have a respirator, definitely use a dust mask. Outside of the frame of the camera, I have a large fan that is assisting in blowing the smoke out of my shop. But also, in hindsight, I wish I had added more supports, simply because 12 feet is a very long length for only 3 supports, and as you can see, it's starting to sag. Luckily, I have my son here in the shop, and he can hold the end that I started on to keep it from falling off and causing me a problem. But for the most part, it went really smooth. I had one little bobble right about 3 inches before the end, but not a huge problem, and it won't affect my project. Okay, so for the first cut, not bad. I'm actually kind of pleased with that. There was one little wobble right there at the end. That was me, but it will do for what I needed to do. Now, on this prototype tool, what I did is I actually added a ruler. I went to Harbor Freight and I picked up this ruler here and then cut it down to this ruler, and then I've added it to the long section, so when I slide back and forth, I have this little arrow here that will show me exactly where I need to be. Now, I haven't tested it yet, but I lined it up with the 12 inches and where I had it before, so in theory, it should work. But here's a close-up of what that looks like. And if you're interested in making one of these for yourself, I'll go ahead and put the plans together and the link down in the description. If you don't see the link right now, it might be a little bit too early, but check back and the link will be there once I have the plans written up. Hey, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please do so now. And if you have a comment or you'd like to make a suggestion for the next video, leave those in the description down below. Now, if there's any tool that I used here in the video that I have an affiliate link for, I'll leave that also in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.